Our news this week focuses on a very specific issue, the Wim Wenders film Till the End of the World, which failed to gain approval as a co-production from the Australian Film Commission. Co-productions are not easy to get up, but the AFC's decision to reject the Wenders film has angered a number of people. I spoke to three of them. Firstly, Michael Frankel, former senior legal officer and policy advisor at the AFC, and currently legal advisor to the Wenders production. Michael, the topic is co-productions. What seems to be the problem?
I think it seems that the government has an intention not to enter into co-productions, although they issue guidelines and say publicly that they want to enter into co-productions. Judging by their behaviour, their attitude and the way they actually undertake their approval procedure, it seems that there is no real intention, either commercially or otherwise, to enter into formal international co-productions.
Why do you think that is?
I think either there's a fear, a parochial fear that they don't have the capacity to produce films internationally, or capacity to control or have effective control in Australia of co-productions. There's something that they just can't come to terms with about co-productions which stops them from encouraging the production of films.
John Maynard, producer of the co-production The Navigator, on the history of co-productions.
Well, I've had almost no history because really it's self-evident that the program doesn't work. More than 2 years ago they announced there would be up to 14 approvals given for up to 14 co-productions. Since then, one television co-production has been made with England, and that was not on a government-to-government basis. And the other one, which was a government-to-government basis, was with New Zealand. So clearly it's self-evident that the project just doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because there are a lot of inflexible rules. And the rules were drafted through an industry accord with the AFC. And those rules really are set out to defend the jobs of writers, directors, actors, etc. Noble though they may be, they just actually in fact don't work. And they don't have any generosity towards the very spirit of co-production. They are very negative just in the way they're structured.
The Industry Advisory Panel, which comprises recommendations from unions involved in the film industry, recommended to the AFC against support of the Wim Wenders project. The common thread of argument was, as was the Australian Film Commission's, that there was insufficient creative input compared to the financial commitment. Is there a problem with union attitudes?
And I don't really think these problems exist. They exist more in the minds of bureaucrats than anywhere else. And I mean, you know, union bureaucrats as well as AFC bureaucrats, rather than the filmmaking community, which is far more generous to each other around the world because we all work in each other's countries. We always have and we always will. And it's just the nature of life. It's how films are made.
Julia Overton, Australian producer of Till the End of the World, on the timing of the project between the end of 10BA and the introduction of the Film Finance Corporation.
In that respect it is unlucky, yes, but in other respects one would have thought that because of the actual downturn in film production that people would be pleased and excited to try and get a film like this going in Australia. You know, at the moment what's happening is we're being used by American companies to provide services for films which have no cultural identity. They come, they shoot, you know, a few bits of desert, a kangaroo, a koala, perhaps the harbour bridge, bring their crews, pick up a few here and go back. And to all intents and purposes it could have been shot anywhere. And this is a chance to redress that balance, and it should be made.
Well, there's obviously a great deal of passion about that project.